Good morning. Is everybody awake? Yes? Ready to go? Y'all have a big full day ahead of you? Yeah? Okay, good. All right. Well, I'm excited to be here. You guys are going to have a long day of people standing up here talking at you. And so I would like to talk with you today, and I would like to actually just answer questions from you. Is that okay? All right, cool. So I think, you heard my bio. I think have a lot of you seen Unplanned? Yeah? Okay, cool. So a lot of you know I worked at Planned Parenthood for 8 years of my life. I left a long time ago, actually, but sort of keep up with what's going on in the abortion industry because of my ministry, and then there were none. We have now had 700 abortion clinic workers leave the industry, come through our ministry, and so we keep up with what's going on inside of the abortion industry, what's going on inside of these clinics. We try to stay aware of their policy changes, what's going on, just continue to keep up with how diabolical and nefarious they are, and so anyway, I would just love to hear from you. You are open to ask me anything at all. Nothing is off the table. You are not going to offend me. I promise. So you can ask me anything you want, and I will answer any question. The mic is here, and I do not want, what's your name? Kim. I do not want our beautiful Kim roaming all around the room to try to catch you. So if you have a question, just come over to the beautiful Kim, and she will give you the mic, and you can ask a question. So all it takes is one person, one brave Canadian, to come to the mic, and then they'll all come. So one person. Here we go. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Abby. My name is Nathaniel. I'm a high school teacher for the Toronto Catholic District School Board.
Awesome.
My question is, how can I raise the topic of pro-life and versus pro-choice in a safe way with my students without getting fired?
But you're at a Catholic school?
It's completely, hypocritical. So I'm in the minority being a Catholic in a Catholic school.
Wait a minute. You're a minority being a Catholic in a Catholic school?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Your Catholic schools are funded by the government? Wow. Well, Canada. Okay, so so here's what I think, and I do have an answer for this. Okay, so because I believe that this is what we should do in the United States as well with our public school system. I think the most powerful thing that we can teach young people is embryology and prenatal development. Okay, so I think prenatal development is something that it's scientific, but it's also, who makes babies? God, right? So I think it's okay to talk about science. A lot of people are like, science is a secular view. Science is not a secular view. Science came from God. It's not random. God created everything, right? And so I think one of the things that, there's a big debate in the United States about, what do we talk about in public schools? We talk about sex, we talk about abstinence, we talk about contraception, we talk about blah, blah, gay, not gay, all kind of, okay. I think all we should be talking about in the school system in regards to sexuality and all this kind of stuff is prenatal development. How many of you have seen your own ultrasound picture from when you were a kid? A lot of you, right? How many of you have seen ultrasound pictures of your brothers and sisters? Okay. I think that seeing these images of children in the womb are one of our most powerful forces for good to create pro-life advocates. My kids have all seen images of themselves in the womb. And so it's really hard to deny an image of yourself in the womb and then say, well, that's not me. Of course, that was me in the womb, it's still me, right? It's really hard for someone to see an image of a child in the womb and then see them standing next to that picture and go, well, you weren't a human here, but you are a human now, okay? Ultrasound technology has really changed the pro-life movement. I think it's changed medicine, it's changed our apologetics, it's changed everything. So I think the most powerful thing we can do is teach embryology, teach prenatal development. What do you teach?
Communications technology.
Okay, so I think one of the most important things that we can do is to somehow in curriculums, in plans, and whatever, to bring in some sort of creative way, bring in prenatal development, teaching our kids, when a heart beats in the womb, when children begin sucking their thumbs in the womb, how children soothe themselves in the womb, all these sorts of things. And to bring that in, I think we can bring that into every classroom in some sort of way, right? And I think you could do it even in a communication class, even do it through, even if you did it in some sort of presentation, and even allowing the other side to make their argument, right? But if showing like, this is prenatal development, this is how a baby grows inside the womb, and now show me how this isn't human, right? And letting them make the argument that this isn't a human being. I think that that's one of the most powerful ways that we can make that argument. And I think it's just like when I listen to a homily in church, and I think every single scripture can be tied into abortion. And I'm like, this should be a pro-life homily. Like every scripture, I'm like, let's tie that into abortion. I think I think something in the classroom can be tied into preserving life in the womb. So I think you can do it.
All right, thank you
so much. I believe in you.
Thanks.
All right.
Hi, Abby. Thanks
Hi.
for being here. I work as a chaplain in a high school, and I'm kind of similar, I guess, in that I was curious what you would say pro-lifers are doing that is hurting our own cause, and how we could kind of grow. Where are some of our growing edges as a community that we might need to work on? And I mentioned this. I have a fresh memory recently of some very well-intentioned, passionate young children at our school who are talking about, just using language to describe abortion that was actually kind of making everyone around them more pro-choice. Just, if you know what I mean? And so what are some ways you think that we could improve, or how are we kind of hurting our own cause? Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that we need to learn apologetics for how we talk about abortion. Because I think we can do some damage if we're not talking about it the right way. I think that we can push people away from us if we are not. I mean, look, we want to draw people in, right? We want to draw people into our message. We want to draw people into our perspective. And we do that by showing people that we care about mother and baby. And the pro-abortion side says they care about the rights of women more than they care about the rights of the preborn child, right? Our message then in turn should not be that we care about the rights of the baby more than we care about the rights of the woman, right? That's not our message. Our message is that we care about them equally, that we believe that all humans have equal value from the moment of conception. Sometimes, though, I think we become maybe a little overzealous, and we come across that we care about the baby more than the mother. And so I think that that's really important, that we do get that right, that we show that we care about them equally. And so I would encourage people to look at websites that are specifically apologetic. So Equal Rights Institute is a place, it is an apologetics group, and that's all they do. Equal Rights Institute, they teach people how to debate the abortion topic. And so I would encourage young people specifically to go to their social media pages, to go to their website. Emily does a really great job of kind of posing as herself, like going back and forth, acting as a pro-choice person, a pro-life person, and like debating like herself, basically, and showing people how to do that, how to debate these arguments well, like bodily autonomy and all these kinds of tough things that may be thrown at you. She does a really good job of debating those arguments. And so we have to be ready. We can't just say, well, I'm against abortion because God doesn't like it. God doesn't like it. But we have to be better on our feet, and we have to actually know how to defend this in the face of someone who has had an abortion, who is hurting, who took their friend to have an abortion, who's trying to justify the act of abortion because they themselves have participated in some way. And our children deserve, our unborn children and these mothers deserve a fierce defense. And so we ought to have a good defense ready when the topic of abortion comes up, because they deserve that.
Given your story and the eminence of the God's grace to deliver you from the abortion industry, my question for you is, how would you give advice to young people who aspire to be leaders, but I guess want to be aware of remaining humble when it comes to having a platform, of the trap of saying good things, aspirational things, beautiful things, but often being caught in a contradiction? Or like, how do you handle, I guess, the tension, the opportunities, and all those things that may come from being a leader in the pro-life movement or just broader social movements as Christians? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so let me say a couple things to that. When I talk to young people, I always tell them, I got in this position because I made terrible, terrible decisions. I stand up in front of people and tell my story because I did some of the worst things that a human could ever do. And I got this platform because I left something that was evil. And that didn't start with just working in the abortion industry. I didn't go to sleep one day and wake up the next day and work in an abortion clinic. It started long before that, with choices that I made in high school and then choices that continued in college. And if I'm honest with you, it started with immodesty. And I don't just mean immodesty in dress. I mean, yeah, it was that too, but I mean immodesty in language, immodesty in behavior, That translated into the people that I was around, the attention that I sought from young men. That led into risky sexual behavior, promiscuity, which gave me more attention, negative attention. But once you start getting that attention, you desire it more. And that led to my first unplanned pregnancy, which led to my first abortion, which led to me going to work in the abortion clinic, which then led to my second abortion, which then led to me working there for 8 years and facilitating over 22,000 abortions. And then I had a conversion experience. So let me say this. I think a lot of people look at my life and they say, wow, look at everything that Abby gets to do. She gets to meet with all these famous people, and they think that my life is very glamorous, and they think it's so cool, and they think it's so amazing, and all of these fun things, right? I get to travel and speak at the UN and do this, and I had a movie made about me, and wow, that's so cool. You do not want this life. You know what kind of life you want to have? You want to have a life where you say, I can't relate to that woman at all. You want to have a life where you look at somebody like me and you're like, I can't even imagine what she's gone through, because I've always lived in God's will. I've never walked away from God. You know, I've just always tried to follow his plan. And I have no idea what she's even talking about. That's the kind of life you want. Because let me tell you something, guys. If I could give it all up and go back and not murder 2 of my children, if I could go back and I could never work in the abortion industry again, if I could go back and I could not have a hand in killing 22,000 other children, I'd give this all up in a second and be nobody. I'd be somebody that none of you know. I'd give it all up if I could take it all back. But I can't. And so instead, I've just allowed God to use my past sin for his glory. But it's not glamorous to stand up on a stage and tell everybody that you've killed 2 of your children. It's not glamorous to stand up on a stage and tell people that you've killed other people's children. It's actually the worst. It's the worst. And it's embarrassing. I can't tell you how embarrassing it was the first time I watched Unplanned. I remember just shaking. I was so embarrassed that people were going to see my life like that on a big screen. And the producers came to my house and they showed me the final cut of the film, and they walked out of my house, and I looked at my husband and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And I said, is it too late to back out? And my husband was like, I think it's a little too late for that. But I didn't want to do it anymore. And I was just so embarrassed. It was terrible. And then knowing millions of people watched that, millions of people watched the scene in the film where I was standing in the shower, my baby fell out of my body, and I picked it up in my hands, and millions of people watched me negotiate what to do with that life in my hands, what to do with that baby in my hands, and millions of people watched me as I put my baby in the toilet and I flushed that toilet. And that is what really happened, but millions of people watched me do that. And that was embarrassing. That was awful. And yes, I'm taking those mistakes. Yes, I'm taking those greatest sins, and I'm doing everything I can to use them for the glory of God. But guys, this is not what you want. This is not the life you want. You don't want a life of promiscuity and attention-seeking behavior and immorality and abortion and contraception and all this. You don't want that. It's not what you want. You want a virtuous life. My husband is a terrible gift giver, by the way. One year for our anniversary, he gave me a trash can. It was a nice trash can, but, and it was one that I said I wanted, but I didn't want it for my anniversary. I just wanted it next time he ran by Walmart, you know? He's not a great gift giver, but I always give him a pass when he gives me a ridiculous gift, because my husband gave me the greatest gift when we got married. And that was, he had never been with another woman before me. I was the only person that he'd ever been with. And that was the greatest gift that a spouse can give another spouse. I could not give that to him. So friends, I'm here to tell you, number one, please don't glamorize the life that I have, because it's not glamorous. Number two, do everything you can to walk in the light of the Lord. Do everything you can to walk in the will of the Lord, even when it's hard, even when you're tempted. Look to the Lord. Stay in the sacraments. Go to reconciliation. Go to Mass as often as you can. I don't know if all of you are Catholic. I'm assuming you are, because it seems like the entire pro-life movement is Catholic in Canada. Anyway, but stay in the Lord, stay in Scripture, cling close to Him. And number three, if you already have fallen into that temptation, you can turn around from it, and you can be made new again. That's what reconciliation is for. That's why God gives us the gift of reconciliation. That's why He gives us the gift of Himself in the Eucharist, so that we can be made new again. So it's not too late. You can turn your life around. You're not broken. You're not useless. God can make all things new. So, that's all.
Hi, Abby. My name is Brandon. I'm in grade 11, and I am actually a Christian. We're not all Catholic, but yeah.
We'll pray for you.
Thank you. I'm here to ask a question about your kids. Actually,
Okay.
You have 8. I actually have 8 siblings, so I also come from a big family.
We love that.
How, have you shown any of your children the movie? How do you tell them the story? How much do you tell them? As a mother, like that's my kind of question. Like
Yeah.
in your family dynamic, how does this work?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So yeah, my kids are kind of weird because they hear the word abortion like every day in our house. So they kind of grow up like with that question, like what is abortion, you know? And we take them out to abortion facilities to pray. So they grow up kind of hearing about abortion. They grow up going to the clinics to pray, you know, for babies protection in their mommy's tummies. And so they grow up in this movement, right? And you know, my oldest daughter is the greatest pro-life advocate I know. I'd put her up against any blue-haired pro-abortion person any day, and she would whoop them in an argument. She's incredible. But she's grown up in this movement. My daughter, the first 3 years of her life, spent most of her time in an abortion clinic. So it's really only by the grace of God that she is who she is today. I mean, she's amazing. She went to all the protest with me. Like, I have pictures of me holding her with signs that say like pro-life equals anti-woman. I mean, really, it's amazing. So anyway, so she's grown up really hearing my story because she lived part of that story with me, you know? And so she's grown up hearing it, you know. She knows that her 2 siblings before her were aborted, and so she's kind of had to wrestle with that, you know, that like, why me? Why was I given the gift of life, but my other 2 siblings weren't, you know, and we've had to process through that together. She knows that basically I had to negotiate for her life with my boss because my boss desperately wanted me to abort her. So, like, she knows that, and she's kind of had to process through that, and I think that's one of the reasons that she's so greatly pro-life today. You know, her school, her actual Catholic school, they go to the March for Life in D.C. every year. They're very pro-life. She kind of leads that pro-life charge in her high school, and, you know. My next 4 kids are boys. They're different. They're kind of like, they're just kind of like, everybody knows my mom. Like, my mom has a movie about abortion. But, like, they don't know they know what abortion is, but it's not as emotional for them, I guess, you know, as it was for Grace. Grace really, I would say Grace pondered on abortion, I guess I would say, more than the boys do. Grace really thought about what abortion was. Like, when Grace found out that I had 2 abortions, she was young. She heard me say it one day, and she was just like, why would you do that? You know? And I was like, well, I was selfish. I was thinking about me. I wasn't thinking about my children, and I was like, you know, and Mom's really sorry that she did that. And she just kind of sat with it. You know, I didn't try to excuse it. I knew she was kind of angry about it. And we should be angry about abortion, right? It's terrible. And I just kind of let her sit with it for a little bit. And then it was like a few weeks later, we were in the van. And she was like 7 at the time. And she just out of nowhere, she was in the back of our van. And she's like, Mom, she's like, you know how you had 2 abortions? And I was like, yeah. And she said, well, I think that when you get to heaven, you're going to see those 2 babies. And I was like, I hope so. And so she just really kind of sat with it and thought about it. My boys know I had 2 abortions. They know I worked in the clinic. We went to a blessing ceremony of my old facilities. They kind of know that, but they haven't really pondered on it. They haven't really thought about it. Everybody has seen the film, including my 6-year-old twins. Everybody's seen the film. Everybody's aware of what Mom did, what she used to do. But we're just very open about it. And Doug and I have just been, from the very beginning, we've said, whatever our children ask of us, we will give an honest answer. And that's how we've been in our home, including if it's really uncomfortable for mom or whatever. We've just been very honest and open, particularly about abortion. We live in Austin, Texas, where it's very liberal, so we see a lot of gay things. My kids see a lot of that, and so they have questions about that. We're very honest, but we stand on scripture. We stand on church teaching. We stand on biblical authority, and so every time there's a question about life or marriage or anything like that, we take them right back to scripture, and we take them right back to church teaching, and it's never been a problem. So, yeah. All right.
So
Okay.
we have time for one more question.
All right, last question.
All right, Abby, just kind of maybe to help summarize, we have some younger youth here, like grade 8, grade 9, so they're just coming into understanding what pro-life is. Maybe they still don't even get it fully. If you could give them kind of like a summary of like what to take back home now from this summit, of like what does it mean to be pro-life? Kind of a simple thing that now they can grow on.
So you know, I think that there's a lot of people out there who really try to take the pro-life banner and throw a lot of things in the pro-life boat, right? So they're like, to be pro-life, you have to be, it means having an opinion on immigration. It means having an opinion on GMOs in our food. It means having an opinion on this and that and whatever. And they really try to put all of these issues in our pro-life boat. But that is not the pro-life movement. The pro-life movement is simple. We are laser focused on ending the deaths of innocent human beings. That's it, okay? So what does that entail? That encompasses abortion and euthanasia. Those are the two things that the pro-life movement has been always and is currently laser focused on. So there's a lot of people who try to throw like death penalty issues in there, or homelessness, or all these other issues, and they try to label them as pro-life. That sinks our ship. And if we're going to ever end this thing, if we're ever going to make it unthinkable, we have to be laser focused on the issue at hand. And so I don't want people to get distracted by all these other issues. Yeah, are there issues of homelessness? Yes, of course. That's a homeless issue. That's a homelessness issue. That's not a pro-life issue. In the States, we have, I don't think y'all have the death penalty here. Y'all are too nice. But in the States, we have the death penalty. I believe in a moratorium on the death. I don't believe in the death penalty. But the death penalty is not a pro-life issue. The death penalty is a death penalty issue. It's not a pro-life issue. So I think we need to be very clear, number one, on what we believe as pro-lifers to be a pro-life issue. Number two, once we understand what that is, we need to be unabashedly about that issue everywhere we go, no matter who it offends, no matter what our friends think, no matter what our families think, no matter what our peers at our school think. We need to be about that thing. Because if you were at the dinner last night, like I said, it doesn't really matter how popular this idea makes you. It doesn't really matter how many friends you gain regarding this. It doesn't matter what people think about you because of this. What matters is pleasing the Lord. What matters is standing on truth. And this is truth. The pro-life issue is truth. Standing up for human rights, this is truth. Standing up against the slaughter of innocent human beings, this is the right side to be on. And I was just on a podcast the other day, and the guy said, everybody talks about, how you want to be on the right side of history. And I said, I don't really care about being on the right side of history. I care about being on the right side of the future. And the future is that Jesus is going to return. And I want to be on that side. I want to be on the side of Jesus when he returns. And that has to be on all of our hearts. We want to be on the side of Jesus Christ. Not on the side of the government, not on the side of whatever. We want to be on the side of the Lord. And this is his heart. He's created each one of you with purpose and dignity and value. And that started not when you were born. That started at the very moment of your conception. And he made you so intimately. He knows every hair on your head. And that goes for every child in the womb as well. And so my message to you is to be bold, to be unafraid, to be unconcerned about what anybody else thinks about you. Doesn't matter. Only be concerned about pleasing the Lord and what he thinks about you. And what other thing I was going to say? Oh, and to continue to walk in God's will all the time, everywhere you go. And that's my message to all of you. Thank you.